Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the GASOCAST. We took a week off last week, but there wasn't a lack of content we delivered on. We just dropped our brand new rankings refresh for the 2026-2027 class. So that's what we'll be kind of talking about a lot today. I got Blue, I got Tim, I got Lyndon. Fellas, how are y'all?
Doing good.
Feeling good. Getting ready for that next week tip
Yeah, the
off,
se
man.
the season's about to be here. Hopefully, all you teams that have officially started practice last week are in the gym getting better because it's going to get hot and heavy right away. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. Before we get going, some housekeeping notes. The G1 series, check our social media. We just dropped our first official team list of commitment teams. And right when we dropped that, you saw plenty of others want to get involved in this. It's going to be a circuit for you, the player, the coach, the program, to really get a chance to build and just be on that center stage. We're not inviting teams to come play and then we're pushing them to the side. If you're a part of the G1 series, you're part of the full show. So we're excited for that. Be on the lookout for new information in the coming weeks as we continue to prepare for that next year. The GASO travels season, we're prepping on that. We're having discussions who's going where. We almost have week one kind of dialed down. We'll post kind of where we're going on social media so you can see where your familiar GASO faces will be. Blue, you're working on the tournament schedule. What do you want to call that thing? It's your baby, but you do it every
Well,
year.
it's just a 2025 high school tournament and showcase schedule. It's going to be posted on greatamericanshootout.com this afternoon as we have worked through most of the tournaments and showcases that are going to be tipping off next week. And we'll send out a tweet. We're going to be sending this out to the high school coaches also in an email. So there's just a lot of things going on as after we have just taken just a deep breath and get refocused and get ready for the high school season.
Absolutely. And as always, follow us on social media. If y'all are impressed with the content we're able to post at Gassos when we're trying to run an event as well as cover an event, imagine what we can do when we just go watch basketball at somebody's game or showcase. Our content's going to be even better. So make sure you're following all of us on social media as the season's here. We are your source. We're the go-to for the state of Texas when it comes to high school basketball. And we're very proud to provide that for y'all. So let's get into it, fellas. Rankings talk. Another rankings refresh. So before we talk about specific players, just give me your thoughts on just the rankings refresh in general. Was there anything that stood out on your personal rankings when you go through that process? Lyndon, I'll start with you.
Yeah, and when you start to compile these and get the spreadsheets the way that we like to arrange them, um, it's kind of was eye opening to me because this 2026 class, we're so familiar with them. It's their second to last ranking, and right now, if you talk to anybody, the general consensus around not just the state of Texas but just the state of youth basketball is that it's getting harder and harder for high school kids to get recruited because of the transfer portal, because of JUCO, and the prevalence of wanting actual college film, college tape on players, and kids who leave the states and go prep. That is what it is. We had discussions about that on this pod before and in the newsletter, so we're not going to get into that. But putting together this ranking, there's already 50 plus kids who are committed. It's not even national NLI signing day yet. And we already have 50 plus in the fall that before they've even, played a real game their senior season, they're already committed. And that should be really that's something that should be lauded and a pat on the back for this class because we have lost 26 or 27, I believe, at last count to out of state transfers. But the guys who have been there at the top have stayed consistent and have continued to keep their positions. Guys have moved up and moved down the rest of the rankings, but this class, it still matters. Recruiting high school kids still matters in this class, even though they may not have the depth they could if everybody stayed in the state. They still got 50 plus kids committed. And, there's going to be a lot more than that when we go back and revisit these and do the final rankings towards the end of the high school season. So shout out to the 2026 class, especially those of y'all who stayed the course, played in Texas, finished in Texas. Hats off to y'all, and we'll look forward to that final ranking when we get there.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to the families and support system of these kids committing early. I think that needs to be preached more often than not, that you don't have time to play with your food here. when you get these offers in, start making those decisions quick because you never know when a college is going to be like, you know what, we'd rather go in a different direction. So I'm very happy for them. Tim, talk about a little bit what you're feeling.
The 27 class, we looked at that, and I want to touch on the 26s. Now that Lyndon, kind of alluded to the fact about how there's 50 committed kids, but then there's still a lot of quality on the board that's still out there. We recently heard about several others that wound up decommitting from their particular school from a head coach situation. Uh, there's still work to be done on all parties, meaning schools need to come back in and kind of take a look at that list to kind of still see who's available, because I feel like kids that are on that list can still come in and provide that school something. When you look at the 27 class that, we kind of dug into, over the last week and a half or so, there's a lot of quality depth from top to bottom. I had a couple of schools, I even had a couple of organizations and coaches reach out saying, hey, where's this kid, or how is he here? How is he there? It's just so much quality depth. When you look at who's bumped up, when you look at like Marcus Spears and what he's been able to do at the top of the class, and then you look at Reese Austin and his capability, where he's sitting at 3. I mean, that could have gone either direction, really, just based on those kids' production. And then you look at others that, well, even in the mid 20s, 30s, so on and so forth, it's just so much depth and next level potential that's there. I mean, it really was hard to really kind of search through and figure out who was going to land where, but it definitely is eye opening.
Yeah, I'll hop in here. It's just cool to see the fight in this 2027 class. We don't start rankings until after their sophomore seasons. So a lot of times these prospects come into high school being told what they are based off middle school production. So we get a chance to watch, and unfortunately, sometimes the realistic nature of this is that kids thought they were what they thought they were, and maybe our rankings don't align with what they thought they were coming into high school. But then you start to see the fight in these players. You start to see names that fly up the radar um, once there might have been some adversity. So to continue to see fight from guys that maybe dropped outside the top 30 or 40 that worked their way back in the 20s, and you have an example for all that in multiple parts of the rankings, but just to see the consistent fight because this is a 4-year journey, regardless of how often rankings change. But if you're not working every single day, then you're going to get lost in the shuffle. But it was good to see a lot of players that just kind of worked their way back into real high level relevance just by what they did this summer and fall. Blue finishes off.
Yeah, I think I'm going to add a little bit to what y'all have already have started here. Is that one thing to keep in mind is that it's the big news of, oh gosh, a G League players jumped in and going to Louisville, and Division Ones are just going to, no, that is one instance of something happening at the very top 1% or smaller of college basketball. So no need to hit any panic buttons. Now things will start shaping up, and you have the real big talking heads of basketball, whether it's Matt Painter or Tom Izzo, really leading the charge on, hey, let's hold back. So as parents, as evaluators, everything else, let's just be calm in that this is not a normal circumstance. But also leading into what stood out to me in the rankings of the 2027s is that I've alluded this with y'all several times, is that chunk of kids from 11 to about 30, people are coming for your spot. I'm not saying don't play for rankings. You're not going to do that. Be just naturally play the game of basketball. We'll be able to evaluate. You may go up a couple spots, but just by playing and playing the right way and so forth, there's going to be some sneaky stuff that's happening, probably in the rankings in our next rankings that will be due out in January. So there's plenty of time, but just playing the game of basketball, looking from my standpoint of that 11 to 30, those 19 to 20 spots right there, they're very easily could have been gone another direction. So kind of keep that in mind as we move forward here. It's just a number by name, but it's fun to talk about, and it does set kids in different tiers for the next level.
Yeah, for sure. I understand that parents want instant gratification, but if you just work hard every single day, you'll see the benefits, whether it's in January. We're not doing new player rankings every single week based off one game. So just continue to stack up good days and you'll benefit from that. All right, let's get into some names. I like this segment, a non-negotiable riser. Who was a player that you personally guys were going to fight for to make sure that they moved up in our rankings list? Blue, stay hot, stay hot, big dog. Who was that for you?
Hey, Adam Boyd at Tascasita. I mean, that's our number one team. And so when you pinpoint somebody that can really lead the charge on offense and defense, it's Adam Boyd. Through our discussions of who's going to be ranked where, he's going to Louisiana Tech already, is committed for several weeks. I mean, he's the kind of guy that David Martinez that has built around really in the last several years of that program. And even though there's other great guys around him, he can really take charge and be the leading scorer. Then go on the defensive end, make big stops, get with his teammates, gather them, lead them by example. And that's what you want. And when you look at the rankings, there was no place for him but to go up because of all of those qualities that we talk about that are translatable and that sometimes take a little bit more than just saying, oh, he scored 30 points. No, he'll go do whatever it takes to go win a basketball game.
Absolutely. Tim, who is that guy for you? I like this name. I could have guessed it. You've been on this guy for a while now.
Because of his body of work, and I love the fact that, you said you could have guessed it. And then, you're right when you said I've been on this one for a while. And this Caden Deffenbaugh, he's been really trajecting in the right direction. When you start talking about it, and I mean, even to kind of touch on what you were talking about in terms of rankings, there's a body of work. So even when we start looking at you from freshman, sophomore, junior, and even into your senior year, there's a collective body of work. And this young man has really kind of did that for himself. He's shown, progressively, levels in this game, being able to, obviously get to the rim and finish with his athleticism, but then be able to kind of finish it off with his shooting ability. There were questions about it initially, kind of coming into his junior and now his senior year, but he's checked those boxes for me. And so Caden Deffenbaugh, being a well-rounded player as he is, and also, to do Blue's point, being able to go on the opposite end and get stops as well, being a two-way player, he definitely was one that I was looking at.
Yeah, for me, I'll hop in here. KJ Bradford of Red Oak. We didn't get to see Dallas Showtime that often at GASO, but that didn't keep us from trying to figure out what KJ was up to after we saw him in the fall for sure. But just his ascent of shot making, scoring. And I know, Blue, you talked about Adam Boyd's a part of Atascocita, which is our number one team. Well, when you have a guy that's a part of Red Oak who has a lot of state championship aspirations, it's only right that he deserves a jump because he's going to be a big piece of what they do this year. But his just shot making, his ability to get it off the dribble. They have so many different dynamic dudes on that team that fill roles. His role is going to be I can score a lot with the ball in my hand, and I think he just continues to be one of those risers, which is always great to see those seniors that take that big jump because once again, it's never too late. The body of work as a senior is just as important in my opinion. So be on the lookout for KJ Brad from that Red Oak team, but awesome to move up in our rankings. Lyndon finishes off with these 26s.
Yeah, Jose Martin's Katy Seven Lakes. I mean, so much just excellent pace, excellent feel for the game. Just feel like he's so slippery and hard to stay in front of, and then just always makes the right pass, can score it any way you want it. I mean, the last 6 months going back to June at our Round Rock event, the only thing that I've seen stop him is getting his freaking teeth knocked out at TABC. So, I mean, this kid's been playing as well as anybody, and very deservedly moves up, and I think he comes in right at 50 to jump in and jump up in these rankings and kind of show that he should be getting a lot of looks going into his senior season.
All right, let's move on to those non-negotiables in the 2027 class. Blue, start us off.
DJ Hard from Pflugerville Hendrickson. You talk about a guy that can go get you 20 whenever he steps on the court. I mean, it's very consistent. We've seen it throughout the spring, the summer, and even in the fall GASO in San Antonio. He's going to lead this Hendrickson team in points, but also defensively. I love the way that he can move laterally. I love his. We talk about a guy with pace. He has that. He's able to stop and go. He's going to go and distribute the ball. A lot of little things that he does out there that are going to be beneficial to his team, also to himself as we go along here. But this was one that I was pretty hardcore on, that he's going to break that top 100, and that he was going to be one of the new standouts.
Lyndon, before you name yours, I just want to confirm you and I that this guy, realistically, in our meetings behind the scenes, I was the one that you can talk about him, but talk about him on behalf of both of us. Go ahead. Who is that for you?
Yeah, no, Malik Parrish, Houston New Wave. I mean, it's starting to become a question of what he do. Excellent rebounder, rim runner, can put the ball on the floor and go finish over the top, can stretch the floor, and a lot of people are starting to take notice. He was one of those. I think he moved up around 30, maybe 35 spots, but just a kid who just a no brainer. He's starting to put it all together. He's got great length and knows how to use it, and I think that he's one that can continue to rise as this 2027 class continues to evolve with their rankings.
Yeah, I'll hop in here with Ani Lewis of Mansfield Lake Ridge. Heck of a summer for Fox Nation. That backcourt at Lake Ridge with him and Roman Doolin is dynamic, but just his frame, his size, his scoring from all three levels. He just has a knack to put the ball in the basket. He has so many of those intangibles that affect winning, and Coach Cornelius over there at Lake Ridge demands that. So both sides of the ball, Ani Lewis is one of those rankers for me, or risers for me. Tim, finishes off. You have two.
Damon Miles. I mean, this kid here has really come on, really, really strong. When we start talking about body of work, he puts together, really solid frame, comes into the door, 6'2", 6'3", but really athletic. But his ability and to change speeds, his burst to get by defenders, but his ability to be able to shoot it from deep. We had a couple of games where we've seen him have 6 or 7. Very, very crafty score, but then his motor is nonstop. So not only is he one that can kind of catch and shoot, but he's one that can really kind of burst by you, put it on the floor, really kind of put a lot of pressure on the defense. And then the other one is a no-brainer for me, and we talk about it a lot. Son Jinko, I mean, just his ability and how he impacts the game. He puts so much pressure on the defense. But then he, when Mike was talking about, Ani, making plays, doing different things that translate to winning. Son does that for his particular groups, whether he's on an ASAC group that he was on, and obviously also for St. Michael's that he'll represent here, in the next couple of weeks. I mean, he just represents winning. I mean, he's one of those type of kids that, is going to make plays whenever he needs to, hit shots whenever he needs to, create for others whenever he needs to. I mean, just one of those kids you got to have on the roster.
Absolutely. And before we move on to the next topic, I just wanted to say this about the rankings in general. Obviously, not everybody's going to agree with what we do, but at the end of the day, we're not hiding behind a brand. We're the guys that are doing the rankings. We're going to have these conversations. We understand you as the AAU coaches or the coaches and parents are always going to want to advocate for your guys. So we understand the pushback. The one thing I'll say is we'll continue to say it. Regardless of rankings, we're advocating for everybody. When you're playing well, we're advocating for you. There's not a number by your name that determines how much we advocate for people and kids. So obviously, that's never going to make you happy if you're not happy with the rankings, but just understanding how we handle business. We're as honest as it comes in this space. We work as hard as we can in this space, and we're always going to have these conversations with you. So from that perspective, just know the advocation doesn't stop because you disagree with the rankings. I understand the AAU coaches are going to tweet because you have to do that. You got to go advocate for your players. I get that. So just from our side, we do this the best we can. You're going to see us in the gym. You're going to respect how hard we work, regardless if you agree or disagree with the rankings. And we're always trying to get better every single time out. So I've learned that from Blue. Blue, you and Sam have been doing this for so many years. You have thicker skin than anybody. Is there anything you want to add to that in general?
Yeah, things can change, right? Things can change. We go out there and we the more we watch, the more we see. Guess what? And also, guys just mature differently. It's not a case of like this is their final ranking and then they're done. And so what happens is that there's a conversation going on all over the place, right? There's conversations happening with the high school coaches, with the summer coaches, even college coaches like talking about rankings. Yeah, they know that they have to go pick the right player for their program, no matter what the number is beside them. But they even have great insight and great talking points when I'm on the phone with them, and they want to, and they have a little bit of time to spend just to kind of talk freely. So it's not anything that's always set in stone. And we've seen over the years how guys have been, the unranked kid that has gone to a high major, as a walk, and they got a scholarship, and then there's the NBA. It happens. It happens, and we've seen it. And this is not the final say. Your final say is not done yet as a player.
Lyndon, Tim, I know y'all have gotten DMs as well on, hey, how is this guy ranked this and this? Anything you want to just add to this conversation?
I think both you and Blue both hit it on the head in terms of how things can change, and that, as a coach, as a program director, you should push for your kids. I mean, if you're not, then I think you are cheating yourself in that regard. But at the same time, the kid's body of work is what's going to tell the final story. And so it could start out early, as we talked about before. You have some kids coming out of middle school and they peak very early. And then you have some others that continue to work, get in the gym. Blue talked about it from a maturity standpoint, how bodies mature a little bit differently. That also equates to their game level, in terms of being able to be stronger, to being able to do things now more on a consistent level. And I think, that term within itself gets lost. It's consistency. I can't come out and see Michael Timmons come to my game and I perform well, and then all of a sudden, we come together and we talk about it, and he said, hey, you need to go and go watch and play. And then I go watch and play, and I not see you do anything, because now I'm going to come back to Mike and say, hey, what did you see? Because in this particular game or these games, he didn't do that. So I think it's also consistency that cannot be undervalued in this situation. The more you do it, the more value you bring to the table, the more your name's going to be mentioned and the higher you can potentially be.
Absolutely, for sure. I like this next topic, more time to rise. We talk about everybody wants that instant gratification. There's just so much panic in this youth space world where I think parents think, oh, we got to do it right this second or it's never going to work out. That's why I like this topic. There's more time to rise. Who's the 2027 that you think has another big jump coming in the next ranking? Lyndon, I'll start with you.
Yeah, let's go with Jakari Irvin, Fort Bend Hightower. 6'5", kind of Swiss Army knife, can do it all. I mean, shots off the dribble, can shoot it from the three-point line, can play above the rim. And just one of those where I just think there's a lot of substance there. I think that there's a very good opportunity for him at this Hightower program to have a big year in what's kind of opened up into a pretty open district with that Fort Bend 6A district. So I'll be making them a priority early in the season. I think this is a kid who we may be kind of thinking, he's in the top 100 now, but he may be moving up when we talk about these again in January.
Blue.
Yeah, Romeo Waits from Trophy Club, Brian Nelson Trophy Club, and he's interesting because he's part of that chunk that we talked about, right? That 11 to 30 that can be thrown into a bag and kind of just mixed up, and all of a sudden he's sitting right now at 24. He could very easily move up another 5-10 spots, right? That's what we want to see here in the upcoming weeks, especially at the start of the season, how these players get out of the gates. And when you look at him in terms of his body, how much stronger, leaner, how long he is, how he can affect the game on both ends of the court. Also, as a defender, get up in your chest, cause you to make some bad decisions, and then he's going to go finish, and he can finish in a variety of ways. That's why I like this one right here, that he's in a sweet spot where he can move up. Sometimes, I've said it before, you move somebody up too quickly at some level, and what happens? They can't keep it up. They've maxed out, and then what happens? They drop. So would you rather drop or be the guy that just takes the reins right from the tip and move up and force us to make that decision? And I think this is one of those guys that is very well could be in that category come January, that we're forced to continue moving him up because he's just that good.
For me, Will Franklin of San Antonio East Central, I stated that late in the July and then into the fall, he started stacking those days, and you could see it. He's making those splash plays that only he can make on the court, and then you're finding those consistent winning plays that when you're mixed in across players across the state, it's not just you talked about put the ball in the basket, go score 30. There's so many ways to be defined, and the more times you can affect winning, the more, especially when it's multiple guys trying to do a ranking, we're all going to be looking for something different. At the end of the day, we all respect what winning brings. So when you can bring those intangibles like Will's starting to do, and you take that jump from late July to the fall, we don't overreact fully. It's added to the body of work, but that just sets you up for another rankings jump if you continue that trajectory. And for my thought, Will Franklin might have that chance. Tim finishes off with the 2027 you think has more to rise.
More to rise for sure. Jeremiah Moore is one that's definitely going to rise. I love this kid and his ability to be able to score the basketball. His role is going to expand. As we kind of found out, earlier this week, talking about some things, kind of behind the scenes. But I think he's more than ready and more than capable with his ability to be able to score the ball off the bounce. his ability to get by people and put so much pressure on you. But just with his general size, he can go out, he can defend multiple positions, rebound the ball, as Mike was talking about, impacting ways, impacting winning. He's capable of doing that. And I think he's still going to have the Corpus Christi Veterans Group, very relevant when it comes down to it, late February, early March.
All
and
right.
then the other one,
one more. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Cam Martin. When we start talking about impact and winning, I've talked to Coach Moore, this week and talked to him a little bit, and big things are expected out of this young man here. We've kind of watched him as he started, touching the ground with them, in Houston a couple of years ago, going into his junior year now. His role is expanding as well, where he's going to be asked to do not only things on the offensive end, but actually go out on the defensive end and kind of set the tone for those guys. And Coach Moore is feeling really good about this one in Cam Martin.
All right, we'll finish today's episode talking about some more 2026s. Who's the 26th that went from unranked to ranked that you kind of want to give a shout out to for their hard work? Lyndon, start us off.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Houston theme and go with Carter Shipman, Katie Tompkins. I mean, somebody who we saw in the summer, and then a month later, he looked like a completely different player, was doing a lot more, had improved the body, was just impacting the game, being more productive. And then you watch him in the fall, and he's taken another jump, and it's just like a kid who, if he continues at this rate, I mean, a lot of schools in and outside of Texas need to be giving this kid a look. I mean, he's 6'7", can shoot it, put it on the floor, rebounds well. It's hard to poke holes in his game, and he deserves to move into the rankings. Now, he's another one, if we're playing the game of has a chance to move up, he could be moving up well into the top 100 when this is all said and done.
And I think the one thing that people fail to realize is that even if you're not ranked, it does, like our scouting service, like we're not going to just sit here and rank 300 people. That does a disservice in my opinion. But when you talk about who college coaches are recruiting, there's tons of kids unranked that are going to play basketball in college. I just want to let people know that, like Blue said it, it's a number by a name, but it doesn't define every single thing, for sure. So just from that perspective, these kids that we're talking about right here, they're going to play college basketball, for sure. So I just want to keep the main thing when you're talking about developing. For me, I'll hop in Gerald O'Neill of Judson. He's one of those guys that sets the tone with his physicality and just his approach to the game. He has a mean streak to him and plays with that chip on his shoulder. And all of a sudden this summer, you go look at a box score at a GASO and it says Gerald O'Neill 30. And you're like, wow. Well, with everything else he does, now he's starting to put the ball in the basket at a high level. His frame finishes through contacts. I mean, he had some of our most electric and ones and game winners at GASO when it mattered for hard work. But just to see a Judson team, he'll go over there and he's just going to every night have an opportunity to just be a game breaker. But he's just doing one of those things as we talk about these 26s. The body of work continues to build. And once you just stay more consistent, you're going to continue to find yourself in better situations. And Gerald's done that for sure. Blue, who's your guy?
R.C. Heron from Dallas South Oak Cliff. How many times did we come back, though, in a spring game or a summer game as he was playing with Team Business go, man, he really did something great on the floor to help his team win, whether it was a big stop, whether it was a big three-pointer or getting a lay-in somewhere along the way. And then we see, hey, this guy is most definitely able and willing to be out there on the court and challenge other opponents. And he's in the top 160 now. And so, and that matters to me. I mean, if you can see my excitement for somebody like RC who hasn't been ranked, no matter where he's at in the ranking, it's fun. It's exciting. I can be excited for number 150 as I am number 15 or 10. And for RC, he has a chance here to really make an impact because he's with Antoine Thompson as his head coach at SOC. He has a chance that he can really be a floor leader to show these college coaches, hey, I can play at your level because look what I'm doing here at the top 5A, 6A level as I'm going through my schedule early on in the season. He's a guy that can distribute. He can get up the floor very quickly. He's going to hit shots on, I believe, from all three levels that he can, even though he's a smaller guard, because he's just so crafty and sneaky. He'll see the big holes to get to the basket, and he'll go guard somebody 94 feet. And with somebody like Antoine Thompson, who's going to be his head coach that is his head coach at SOC, he's going to demand a lot from him. So I can only see him getting better over the next few months and be ready for a district run.
Yeah, the conversations we have, even in the back end of rankings, are just as strong Like we're going to war for guys in the back end of rankings, just like we would at the top of ranking. It's not like let's just do the top 10 and now whatever. Like there's guys who are like, no, he needs to be in it. I don't care what y'all say. That's why we do these. And to hear Blue's excitement to talk about a kid like RC kind of just sets the tone for how we operate as a business. So great job, Blue. Tim finishes off.
Yeah, no, that was a real good selection, Blue. And, my excitement, even just watching him play, in a couple of our events and how he was impacting the game. I mean, he's tenacious. So definitely love that selection. For me, it's Hagenhurst, at San Antonio O'Connor, just with his size, how he kind of came out of the gate, early on as a freshman and as a sophomore, and the things or the expectations that were put on him. And some of it was a little bit unrealistic. Some of it was just predicated on his size. But what he did is he kind of evaluated himself and kind of said, hey, I really want to get better. What do I need to do? And so he talked to his people. Obviously he changed his level of play a little bit, and wound up finishing out the summer with the SA Future group. But for him to really kind of go back and say, okay, what do I personally need to do? So he wasn't looking at what everybody else was doing. He had to look at himself in the mirror and figure out where he needed to be and what he wanted to become. And he did that. He's a young man that really kind of embodies it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish. And, with him coming up with a legitimate Division II offer that he committed to out in Denver a couple of weeks ago, definitely shows that one. And then another young man, Paul Gumbert Mendoza out of Wimberley. I've seen this kid several times, in some fall league stuff. And then obviously, during the summer GASO stuff, this kid here can really put it in the basket. He's really crafty. He's shifty. He knows how to create space for himself, but he also knows how to create space for others. And just make winning plays, as we talked about with a couple of other kids, a moment ago. Paul Gumbert Mendoza is for real, and him committing to St. Edwards, a couple of weeks ago is justified. This kid here can really play, and he's a reason why Wimberley has been in the equation, moving on along in the brackets, in tournament play come March for the last several years too.
Well, there you have it. Rankings GASOCAST finished. It's time for us to get back into the gym. I know we're going to have to fill the gas tank up because we're about to be all over the state. So look out next week as we kind of debut where we'll be going week to week, especially for this non-district tournament season. And we're excited to get it back out there and get our eyes as many players as possible. So we appreciate y'all. Almost 400 live viewers right now. I'm rocking with the brand, and as always, more content coming, newsletter. We got to go work on that next, Lyndon, because it's a big one this week.
Yep.
But we'll be talking to y'all next week. Peace.